My name is Marcus Vale. I was 25 when I landed a freelance mapping contract with the Department of Natural Resources. Mostly solo gigs, remote terrain, drone passes, elevation verification. It suited me fine. I wasn't built for offices or 9-to-5s. I liked silence. I liked the woods. And most of all, I liked being left alone. The job that changed everything started in southern West Virginia, past a place called Grafton Hollow, where the ridgelines run like stitched scars across the land. I was supposed to run drone sweeps across 3 sectors, log anomalies, then report back. Simple. I'd done tougher jobs in snow and heat waves. I didn't expect this one to stick in my bones. It was day 3, late morning, when I wrapped up the last drone pass. I was ahead of schedule. The ATV trail I'd been using to access the ridge was narrow but manageable, just wide enough to ride without scraping bark. I had maybe 5 hours of daylight and figured I'd make it back to the base cabin early. That's when I saw the path. It wasn't obvious, just a sliver of dirt past a cluster of fallen brush. But it was there. Narrow, sunken slightly into the earth like something had been using it for years. No signs, no markers, not even a deer track. But it was worn, and it wasn't on any of my maps. I should have kept riding. But boredom is a nasty thing in the woods. It makes you curious. Makes you forget that curiosity doesn't belong in certain places. I parked the ATV, grabbed my water bottle and the hardshell drone case, and walked in. The trail swallowed me quickly. The forest grew denser, the air heavier. I didn't notice at first, but the sound dropped out like a switch had been flipped. No birds, no bugs, just silence. The kind that presses on your eardrums until you hear your own pulse. 5 minutes in, I realized I was alone in a way I'd never felt before. I slowed near a bend in the trail. That's when I saw it. A skull hanging from a branch at eye level. Coyote, maybe. The jaw was missing, and it was suspended by what looked like braided twine. The bone glistened faintly, and I noticed faint black markings along the edges. Symbols? Stains? I wasn't sure. I didn't get closer. I'd been in these woods long enough to know the difference between natural decay and something placed there on purpose. I took a step back, whispered aloud, "Just passing through," and turned to leave. That's when something hit me in the chest. Not hard, more like a light toss. I looked down. Another skull. Smaller. Raccoon-sized. It had landed right at my feet. I spun around. No wind. No movement. No one. I backed up, one hand tightening around the drone case like it could protect me. Then I saw the trail split. I swear to you, when I walked in, it was a straight shot. But now there were 2 paths. One veered left, dipping slightly. The other stayed level to the right. I stood there frozen, trying to remember if I'd missed something. I hadn't. I picked the left path. I don't know why. It just felt warmer somehow. Like it knew me. The trees thickened. My GPS dropped out. My phone screen froze, then went black. I tried restarting it. Nothing. I wasn't panicking, not yet. I'd lost signal before. But this felt different. Like something was actively pushing the signal away. Then I saw the house. If you could call it that. It looked handmade, wrong angles, warped boards, a roof that slanted like it was being pulled downward. The porch was crooked, and one shutter dangled loose, creaking in the still air. One sleeve of a red flannel shirt fluttered from a splintered railing. I told myself to stop, to turn back, but my feet moved anyway. 3 steps toward the porch. Then I heard it, humming, low, off-key, slow, like someone trying to remember a lullaby through a mouthful of dust. The same line, over and over. I froze, every muscle locked up. Then snap. A twig behind me. The humming stopped. A voice followed. "You don't belong here." It came from the trees. Calm. Not angry. Just certain. I turned slowly. A man stood just behind a pine. Tall. Thin. Still. His face was half in shadow. I couldn't make out his features, just the shape. One step closer, and I saw his eyes. Too dark. Too deep. Like looking into a cave. "There's something in that case," he said, nodding toward the drone. "Something that don't belong." I opened my mouth to respond. Before I could speak, another voice chimed in. This one came from behind me. Higher. Softer. Almost gentle. "He took the path," it said. I turned. Another figure stood at the edge of the trees. A woman, I think, holding something swaddled in white cloth like a baby. Her face was obscured by her hair. She clutched that bundle tight, arms locked like iron. I took a step back. "I didn't mean to," I said. I'm just lost. There's no trail back, the man said. His voice had dropped lower, like gravel under tires. I ran. Didn't look. Didn't plan. Just bolted. Branches clawed at me. My boots slipped on moss-covered stones. I dropped the drone case, scrambled, grabbed it again. My lungs burned. My legs stung from unseen thorns. Behind me, I heard footsteps. Not a chase. Just steady. Following. Deliberate. Like they knew I'd tire first. The trail vanished. No more path. Just forest. I turned right, then left. Nothing but trees. Then I heard the humming again. Closer. No direction. Just around. I didn't stop moving. I climbed over a fallen log, slid down a slope, and there, finally, was the ATV trail. Wide. Real. Like a lifeline thrown from the mouth of hell. I ran straight to the cabin. Locked both doors. Collapsed on the floor. I didn't radio anyone. I just sat there, shaking. 2 weeks later, I returned with a guy from the state forestry office. We traced my markers, checked the drone logs. I brought him to the spot where I'd entered the hidden trail. Nothing. No second path. No house. No skulls. No humming. Just pine needles. He said, "No one's lived out here in decades." I didn't argue. We hiked back in silence. The forest was back to normal. Birds, bugs, wind. Like it had put on a mask again. Since that day, I don't leave the marked trails. I don't follow curiosity. And I've never flown a drone solo again. My name's Ian Mercer. I was 23 when I joined the Forest Service, stationed along the Tennessee-North Carolina border. Clearing trails after storms sounded like the perfect escape. I wasn't looking for glory or some great calling. I just wanted the quiet. No meetings, no deadlines, no small talk. Most days it felt like I'd won the lottery. Hike in, set up under the pines, flag debris, take notes, and hike out. It was honest work, the kind that left your muscles sore and your mind blank. But then I got assigned to Trail 9. Trail 9 didn't officially exist. It wasn't on any GIS database. No digital entry, no paper map. I first heard about it from my supervisor, Warren, a gruff guy with a voice like gravel and a stare that didn't blink enough. "Need you to check out a route," he said one Friday morning, pulling a faded topographic map from a drawer. Storm damage report came in. Trail 9. I squinted at the map. There's no Trail 9. He didn't respond at first. Just tapped a finger on a handwritten note pinned to a corkboard. Trail 9, check shelter. Do not proceed beyond. Look, Warren finally said, just hike in, survey the damage, check the shelter, and come back. Don't go past the shelter. Understood. My gut twisted, but I nodded. What's past the shelter? He looked away like I'd asked something rude. Nothing of interest. Just don't go there. It was mid-October. The air had that crispness that hinted at coming frost. I packed for a 2-night stay, 3 days worth of food, a compass, knife, flashlight, and a battered topo map with Trail 9 scribbled in pencil. I didn't mention it to my girlfriend, Casey. Why worry her over some off-book trail? The trailhead wasn't marked. It started behind a metal gate that creaked like a dying hinge. The forest welcomed me in with its usual chorus, woodpeckers knocking out rhythms, crows cawing in the distance, the smell of wet pine and decay hanging in the air. Rhododendrons tunneled over the path, and spruce needles carpeted the soft dirt. Peaceful. Familiar. Around mile 3, I found something odd. A lopsided wooden sign, half hidden in brush. Hand-painted in jagged, dripping letters, which hole? No arrow, no trail indicator. It looked like it had been there for decades. The paint was cracked, the lettering warped like it had been scorched. I took a picture, dropped a GPS pin, and moved on, chalking it up to local lore or teenagers with too much time. 15 minutes later, I reached the shelter. 3 decaying walls, a tin roof that clinked like wind chimes in the breeze. The fire ring was cold and moss-covered. The place hadn't been used in years. I checked my watch. 4 hours from the truck. Perfect turnaround time. But pride whispered, "You've come this far." I stepped past the shelter. The forest changed immediately. Rhododendrons and spruce gave way to gray birch, tall, pale, bark peeling like old wallpaper. No leaves. No birds. No wind. Just stillness. It felt like the woods were holding their breath. My GPS flickered and died. The compass app spun like it had a mind of its own. I tapped the screen. Nothing. Tried my analog compass. It spun wildly, then snapped to point south. But I had been heading east. I should have turned back. But I didn't. Around mile 5, I saw something between the trees. At first, I thought it was a deer, then a person. But it didn't move. It stood too still, too tall. Its proportions were wrong. Arms too long, torso too narrow, head tilted at a grotesque angle. Its skin, or what looked like skin, was bark-like, mottled in gray. I could only stare. It wasn't watching me. It was waiting. For what? I didn't want to know. I backed away slowly, stepping into the underbrush until the thing disappeared from view. Then I turned and ran. Back at the shelter, the tin roof clattered as if warning me away. I made camp nearby. Small fire. Phone off. The silence pressed in like an animal crouching outside the glow of the flames. Every branch snap echoed too loud. Something brushed against the tent once. No growl, no footsteps. Just a gliding touch, like fingers dragging along fabric. I didn't sleep. Before dawn, I packed up without coffee or breakfast. I moved fast. Half a mile in, I froze again. Footprints. Small, barefoot, childlike. They wove ahead of me, then turned back, looping in strange patterns. Too small to be an adult, too precise for an animal. I glanced behind me. Nothing but the birch, swaying once. I walked faster. Then I saw the bundle. Hung from a branch 5 feet off the ground. Bits of cloth. Feathers. Small bones. A doll made of sticks, wrapped in thick black hair. Human hair. I didn't touch it. Just took another photo, hands shaking. When I reached the witch hole sign again, my blood ran cold. It had been moved. The jagged letters now pointed back the way I came, toward the shelter. Someone, or something, had turned it while I slept. I reached the truck and collapsed against the door, lungs burning. I called Warren. He said they'd send someone after lunch. Back at the station, I handed him the map. He looked at the first few photos, the sign, the shelter, and nodded. Then the figure. And the bundle. His face didn't change. "We told you, Ian. Don't go past the shelter." I folded my arms. "It's all in the report." He slid the file into a manila envelope, locked the drawer, and turned away. "You're done with Trail 9. 2 weeks later, I found a package in my locker. No name. Inside, wrapped in cloth, was a satellite photo of that slope. Trees bruised purple, outlines traced in red ink. Across the top, scrawled in block letters. "Do not go below the ridge. No echo. If seen, stay still." No signature. No explanation. That photo lives inside my phone case. A quiet warning. I never set foot on Trail 9 again. My name is Lyle Morgan, and I was 32 when my cousin called me out of nowhere. We hadn't spoken in nearly a year. The call came just after 9 p.m. on a Thursday. The name Carter lit up on my phone like a relic from another life. When I answered, his voice was brittle, like it had been folded and unfolded too many times. "Lyle, can you come up to Boone?" he asked. "I need help packing." Then he hung up. No details. No greeting. Not even directions. Just that. I stared at the screen for a long time. Something about his tone, it wasn't desperation exactly. It was hollow, like he'd already decided something terrible was going to happen, and just wanted me to see it before it did. I dug through our old texts and found the address he'd sent me 6 months earlier. It was a cabin, somewhere near the Tennessee-North Carolina border. I remembered laughing when he first told me about it. Said he needed to get away from people. Said he was going to reset in the woods. "How long you think you'll last?" I joked. "Long enough," he replied. He lasted 5 months. The next morning, I packed a bag and drove north. The last hour of the drive was nothing but switchbacks and gravel. No signs. No cell service. My GPS tried rerouting every 10 minutes, like it knew I was headed somewhere I shouldn't be. When I finally reached the driveway, it was little more than 2 muddy tire tracks cutting through thick trees. His truck was parked at an angle, crooked, one door ajar, keys still swinging from the ignition. The forest around me was wrong. Too quiet. Not peaceful quiet, paused. Like the woods were holding their breath. The cabin sat behind a wall of pines, so dense you couldn't see past the first row. The trees leaned inward, their trunks twisted just slightly, like they were pressing in. I knocked. No answer. The front door was locked. The back door was wide open. I stepped inside. The smell hit first, wet wood, rust, and something faintly sweet, like fruit left to rot in a closed car. Carter's things were everywhere. Half-packed boxes, clothes draped over furniture, unopened cans of soup lined up across the floor, like he'd given up placing them on shelves. The kitchen light flickered every few seconds, but the bulb never fully died. His phone sat on the counter, screen cracked, buzzing with missed alarms. I picked it up and scrolled through his reminders. Don't look at them. Stay inside after dusk. No windows. Each note was time-stamped. The most recent was from just 2 days ago. I called his name. No answer. Then I noticed the boot prints out back. Deep. Fresh. Leading into the forest. I hesitated. My instincts screamed to stay inside, but I followed the tracks. A quarter-mile in, the trees swallowed the light. That's when I heard him. Lyle, don't come down here. His voice cracked through the still air. Urgent. Sharp. I stopped cold. Carter? I called. I'm serious, he shouted. Turn back. Now. I spun around, trying to find him. Nothing but trees. Silent. Watching. I didn't ask questions. I ran back to the cabin. Everything was exactly as I left it. Cans untouched. Light still flickering. I sat on the couch, every muscle tight. Nearly an hour passed before the back door creaked open. Carter stepped in. He looked wrecked. Mud up to his knees. Sweat soaking through his shirt. Eyes hollow. He stared at me like he wasn't sure I was real. We're leaving tonight, he said. No emotion. Just a statement. I didn't argue. We packed silently. He didn't tell me where things went, just pointed, nodded. He refused to touch the bedroom door. When I reached for it, his hand clamped around my wrist. Don't go in there, he whispered. It watches from there. I didn't ask. As the sun dipped behind the ridge, Carter started pacing. His eyes flicked to the windows every few seconds. His hands hovered near his pockets, like he was about to grab something but didn't. You hear that? He asked suddenly. I didn't. Then I did. A soft creaking from outside, like a tree swaying, but slower. Intentional. Carter stepped onto the porch. I followed. That's when I saw it. At first, I thought it was a shadow, but it moved differently. It stepped out from behind a pine, half emerged into the dusk. Tall. Slender. Wrong. Its limbs were too long. Its spine bent as if it didn't quite understand how standing worked. Its head swayed, slow and rhythmic. It didn't hide. It watched. Then it slid back behind the tree. I couldn't speak. Carter didn't wait. He hurled the last box into the truck bed, climbed into the back seat, and lay down, arms over his face. I'll drive, I muttered. 3 miles out, I glanced in the rearview. It was still with us. Not on the road. Above it. Moving through the trees. Leaping. Silent. Limbs arcing from branch to branch. The trees bowed under its weight, but didn't break. It never gained on us. It just kept pace. I didn't tell Carter. I don't know if he knew. At the county line, we pulled into a gas station. Carter got out and stood near the dumpster, staring at the treeline. Didn't speak. Didn't blink. I handed him a bottle of water. He didn't look away. That night, I dropped him off at his brother's place in Asheville. He took nothing with him. Didn't return for a single box. I asked him once, weeks later, what we saw. He looked at me like I'd spoken a curse. Whatever's out there, he said slowly, it doesn't like when you look back. We never talked about it again. I haven't been back to Boone. My name's Caleb Drury. I was 27 this summer. I decided to vanish into the Appalachian backwoods of western North Carolina for a few days. I'd just wrapped up a 6-month consulting contract that drained every ounce of energy I had. I wasn't looking for a vacation. I was looking for silence, the kind you can't find near traffic, Wi-Fi, or people who ask what you're doing next with your life. A coworker had mentioned an old backcountry trail he'd stumbled across a few years back. No signs, no ranger stations, no official markers. Just a narrow path carved decades ago by surveyors or hunters that led deep into the woods and, according to him, ended somewhere nobody's marked. That was exactly what I wanted. I drove in on a sweltering Thursday, the kind of heat that makes your steering will bite your palms. The road narrowed until it was nothing more than 2 ruts and gravel. At one point, a rusted metal post stamped with 19C jutted from the dirt. No trailhead sign, just that. Something about it felt forgotten. I packed light, my tent, a stove, freeze-dried meals, a first aid kit, and a freshly waxed knife my dad gave me before he passed. I had a topographic map, a compass, and a GPS unit I barely trusted. I left my phone on airplane mode and stepped into the forest. The trail was thin but clear. No trash, no footprints, just a corridor of trees and the sound of cicadas humming like static. For the first day and a half, it was peaceful. I followed a creek uphill and found a flat stretch under a stand of pines. Filtered water, boiled noodles, and set up camp. Familiar. Comforting. That night, I lay under the stars, listening to the forest breathe, leaves whispering, the occasional crack of a branch, an owl far off. I slept well. Morning changed everything. I unzipped the tent to find footprints in the dirt. Not boot prints, bare feet. Small. Delicate. They came from the woods, approached within 3 feet of the tent's flap, then turned and vanished. No side prints. No drag marks. Just a perfect set of steps that stopped like the owner had been plucked up into the air. I stared at them for a long time. Each toe and arch was distinct, pressed deep into the soil. I tried to rationalize, kids from a cabin nearby, maybe, but I hadn't passed any cabins. No smoke. No trails. Just endless forest. I shrugged it off, but my chest started doing this odd fluttering thing. Like my heart wanted to bolt, even if I didn't. The second day was harder. The trail got narrow, overgrown, and harder to follow. Trees leaned in. They weren't supposed to do that. I've hiked for years, and I've never seen trees lean in like they were watching. Light faded early. I checked my GPS, dead. Compass spun like it had lost its mind. My paper map didn't match the terrain anymore. Landmarks were gone. Ridges flattened where they were supposed to rise. Even the creek I crossed wasn't on the map. That night, I skipped the campfire. I didn't want the light. I didn't want to be seen. At 3:08 a.m., I heard a knock. One sharp rap, like knuckles on wood. I froze. The air was still. The tent rustled slightly. No wind. Then another knock. Closer. My lungs stopped working. I couldn't move. My knife lay by my side, but even reaching for it felt like too much noise. Minutes passed. Nothing. I unzipped the flap half an inch and peeked out. Moonlight. Trees. No movement. But the air felt wrong. Too still. Like the forest was watching. I stayed awake until dawn. When light finally touched the trees, I stepped outside and nearly dropped to my knees. 5 flat stones were stacked beside my tent. Each one dark, smooth, perfectly placed. Not a natural pile. Deliberate. The top stone had a single fingerprint pressed into it. Not mine. I know because I hadn't touched anything that morning. I stared at it, heart thudding, and backed away. I hiked hard that day. 6, maybe 7 miles. No breaks, no water stops except quick gulps. I just kept moving. The trail twisted in ways that didn't match any logic. I passed a cluster of trees, each of them carved with strange symbols, circles, slashes, overlapping triangles. One tree had a vertical figure 8 with a line through it. The carvings were crude, deep, and old. I didn't stop. By dusk, I found a slope between 2 boulders and pitched my tent. No fire again. I didn't trust the shadows anymore. That night brought the whistling. Not birds. Not wind through trees. It started as a high note. Then a low one. Then high again. Deliberate. Then it came from the other side. Left. Right. Left again. It circled my campsite. 11 pairs of notes. Then silence. I thought it was over. Then something scraped the tent wall. Slow. Like fingernails dragging across nylon. It started at the front, moved around the side, and stopped right beside my head. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. No growl. No voice. Just the sound of something existing inches away. Eventually dawn came. I stumbled outside, blinking in the light. Hanging from a branch above me, 10 feet up, was a rabbit. Its insides were gone. Its eyes too. The fur was slick, as if something had licked it clean. Its front legs were bound with twine, and black smudges covered the fur, prints the size of a child's hand. I didn't touch it. Knife in hand, I headed east. No map. No compass. Just the sun and the slope of the land. By late afternoon, I spotted a cabin. Slumped. Rotting. But still standing. I knocked. No answer. The door creaked open under my hand. Inside, 1 cot, a cast iron stove, and a crate of firewood. No photos. No books.